Hello and good evening, everyone. This is Shituja from Developer Student Community. Very happy to host you all. And I have with me my co-host, Hansit Sharma.
Hi everyone, I'm from Developer Student Community as well.
And we welcome you to the first day of Developer Student Community, Mozilla Durg, and KOG Presents Developer Days, Platform Partner, DevFolio, Authentication Partner, Savo Labs, and supported by Script Foundation. We are really excited to have you all, guys, and I hope you all are as well. Please let me know in the comment section if you are. So, believe it or not, our team really worked hard for this entire event, and we were waiting. We were dying for this day to come, and we are finally here. And so, let us start this event with our full energy and let me see your full enthusiasm. And also, thanks to our all other sponsors for making this event happen. So let's, I think let's not waste time anymore and start off with the track UI UX. And you know that our first session of UI UX is introduction to the UI UX. And okay, so if you have ever YouTubed about UI UX and Punit Chawla's video hasn't come up, that's impossible. So don't worry. Today we have him with us, Mr. Punit Chawla. Please present him on the screen.
Hi guys, thank you so much for that intro. I think the power of SEO worked with YouTube, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
we welcome you, sir, and we are very happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. I love how positive the chat is, and how focused they are. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a amazing session today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So the thing is, when we contacted him, he instantly said, "Yes, I'm in." So that was an honor, really.
yes, sir.
Of course, man. Like you guys have organized it so well. I love the intro. I agree to everyone who's in the chat who said that they loved the intro because I did. I mean, I already know what resources you got that from, but I'm not gonna leak the secrets.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you can continue your session, and because everyone is
Awesome,
waiting, so
so yeah,
awesome,
thank
awesome.
you.
over
Thank
to
you,
you,
guys.
sir.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to overtake this entire session, and I am going to, first of all, guys, thank you for joining in to this wonderful event. UX UI is one of the biggest things happening right now in the tech industry, for sure, especially in India. So this is the perfect time for you guys to get on board with design with UX UI. And today I'm going to take you through user experience and user interface design. What is it? What does it include? How do you go about it? And today and tomorrow, both, I'm going to be here with you guys. I'm going to kickstart the whole UX UI track that you guys have so eagerly become a part of. So I'm going to quickly share my screen so that you have an idea of what we're going to do today. Um, Let me do this. And people were asking, how do we need to share? How do we need to have our Figmas installed or anything? Don't worry, today you don't have to have anything. It's just going to be intro. It's just going to be an overview of what we're going to do all throughout the track. Also, Figma, you don't have to download anything. You just have to sign up. For tomorrow, you might need it. So make sure after the session, go to Figma. It's free. Log in, sign up. You don't need to install anything. So today's session, as you guys can see, is PPT has been made in Figma, of course. So this is a quote that designers live by, kind of, is you've got to work with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. And what does this mean to developers who are sitting here? Because a lot of you guys are developers, of course. So what happens is that the design is the final product. It's what you see on your phone. It's designed, but the technology is what helps it move, helps it to it adds function to it. So what Steve Jobs rightly said was, you have to focus on the customer experience first, then get your app and website up. So this is a very, very cool saying. I'm going to move on to the next slide so that you have a overall perspective of this. UX includes UX research, interaction design, usability analysis, content strategy, visual design, UI design, and information architecture. In no specific order, of course, because we're not really going there right now. But these are just some of the jargons you're going to hear on a daily basis. So I wanted to include these jargons under UX design. And you might be wondering, hey, Punit, why is UI design under UX? Why is it a part of UX? It's a separate field, isn't it? Well, that question, my friend, I'm going to answer on the next slide. So this is a very popular chart that we kind of use to explain what is UX and UI. So CX, I'm sure you guys already know, is customer experience. Okay, when you say order food online, or take a cab on Uber, or watch a video on YouTube. Okay, if your food doesn't arrive on time, it's a bad customer experience. Your food is delayed. You might not order from either that restaurant or from that service. If if the cab driver is not cooperative at all, you're gonna cuss him out. You're gonna say this isn't good service. So the customer service or the customer experience is the whole spectrum. It's the whole spectrum when it comes to a product or a service. But UX and UI are just subsets of the customer experience. So, for example, you want to book a cab on Uber. Let's just take that as an example. If you want to book a cab on Uber, all right, cab wala will come in like 10 minutes, no issues. But if the user experience of the application isn't up to the standards that it'll get you connected quickly with the cab driver, you're going to have a bad experience to begin with. So that harms the overall customer experience. All right. Now, UI is an even further subset of UX. And why is it a part of UX? You might ask. A few years back, these were separate fields. But now it has become very, very important to have a good user interface supporting all the things you do inside UX, which we'll get onto further as we move on. But UI is what supports it, because it's all the visual things you see on screen. For a layman like someone else, of course, I'm a UX designer, but for a layman, doesn't make a difference. Okay, he doesn't know UX, he doesn't know UI. All he knows is what he sees and what he can feel and how the app is working. That's all he can see on screen. So that is why these are the two subsets of a bigger platform or a bigger world called customer experience. There are other things in CX, which is things like actual customer support, people calling you can call somebody and ask for help, chat services, there's marketing, there's onboarding, there's so many different kind of things inside CX, and UX and UI are a big part of it now, definitely. And that is why it's a lucrative field too, because it's such a big part of it. I'm going to move on to the next slide, and we're going to check out what UX design and UI design actually mean. Now, user experience design is the process of solving problems through empathy, research, ideation, testing. Okay, this is what I've written here. But what it really stands for is this is how I always define it. Everything till the wireframing, everything is UX. After wireframing, when someone takes the wireframes and converts it into actual visual design, UI design, that is user interface design. So user experience design is there to define the UI, if you get what I'm saying. The definition of the users, the definition of the ideas, the definition of the problems and the solutions, the definition of, okay, whether this will work or not, which is testing. And prototyping is a part, a lot of people consider it as a part of testing, because you prototype something and then you show it to somebody, often the users and the stakeholders, We're going to get to that. Don't worry if it seems a little confusing. But user experience design is literally creating the user experience before we can add visual cues to it. पहले भी we used to order food online, not online but through our phones, right? We used to call a restaurant, we used to say भैया ये पहुंचा देना. That was a user experience, yes, wasn't it? You used to call, somebody used to pick, used to have like a physical menu or like an online menu somewhere, and you used to call. That's how we did it back in the day. You know? So that was also a user experience, but it didn't have user interface design attached to it because there was no apps. है ना? And UI design is something, UI and UX are something which are there for millennials. You think this is a new concept? It was just termed. It was just termed and the process was just defined. If you guys know what I mean. So the father of UX, he came up with it. Basically, everything started from Apple. It did, to be honest. So in the early days when there was Don Norman, the father of UX, he was working alongside the industrial designers at Apple. That is where he coined the term user experience design. He said, this is bringing together the user's experience. So we'll call it user experience design. And this is what comes under it. UI design is what you see generally, and how you can identify something on screen, and also a way to display content, if you think about it. So I'm going to move forward. If you did not understand truly UX and UI, you can always check out in depth. You can always read it, and there's in-depth stuff in it. But for now, the overview is this. So in this case, we have what a UX designer sees is what I wanted to, kind of bring in here. So the problem statement in this case is Ashna, this girl on the left, hopefully it's on the left on your view as well. Ashna wants to search for shared PGs with legit roommates, a good location and security. A lot of you guys are college students. Hopefully before you joined college before the pandemic, so you know this problem. Coming up with a solution. Now, a person will just look at it as, okay, this is a problem. But a product designer or a UX designer will actually look at it from the point of view of a solution. How do we come up with a solution? So to put in perspective, talk to Ashna and people like her to validate the problem. If one of your friends has a problem and nobody else has it, you say, no, we'll let it slide. Somebody's like, I don't like this dish, but everyone else likes it, so you'll order it anyways, right? So you have to validate whether everyone feels or more people feel the same way. So you'll ask people like Ashna, students like Ashna who are joining college and they want to stay in a PG, a shared PG. So you talk to them and you validate whether they have similar problems, whether they want good security, whether they want a good location, whether they want good, legitimate, roommates. Roommates shouldn't be crazy. So after that, if you validate it, once you validated it, you can use Ashna as a user persona. You can say, Ashna is the kind of person we want to target. And then you say, okay, we brainstorm and figure out what are the possible solutions to these problems, and people think, oh, UX is so tricky. It's not. It's as simple as what I've written on screen. It's literally this. I've just written it in a simple language. That's it. So you figure out possible solutions. We do something called how might we's, which is literally how might we solve this problem. It's just a short form is HMW. And we put on sticky notes. You see those videos, you see sticky notes being placed here and there. It's oftentimes it's a how might we activity. Other times it's just organization. You're just trying to physically organize stuff, do some information architecture. We'll talk about that later. So you do further research just to know in depth what are the problems and whether the solutions are valid or not. You might come up with a solution, but will that solution work? That's the question. And experiment with one or two solutions. So you validated your solutions through certain usability testing and user testing that you do initially when you're creating the user experience. And then at the time of wireframing, that is what we're doing. So then we come up with one or two solutions and we say, okay, so what how do we take this forward? And you create a prototype and you say, okay, we're going to put this out in the either in the market or in the hands of some test users, and we're going to figure out whether this thing works or not. The great part about experimentation is you launch something in the market. If it doesn't work, you pull it back, you already have another solution to go. That is how generally it works. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have a little bit of idea of what it really means, and it's easing everything in this PPT just so that it's as easy as possible. So I'm going to move on to the next screen, and opened something else apparently. Great. Okay, so I'm not going to go inside it because the Durg college at Durg, they just wanted me not to get into this because somebody else is going to take up the design thinking process for you guys. But I'm just going to give you a quick overview because it's an important part of UX. So the design thinking process, we call this the double diamond. Because it looks like two diamonds right next to each other. So this process is basically you empathize with the user. Hey, we already had that. See, I just simplified that here. You talk to other users, you're empathizing with them, so you're understanding what their problems are. Then you get an insight of it. Okay, we've documented everything. We have the personas. Everything is ready. Then you go on to ideation. Ideation is literally figuring out what are the solutions that we can bring in. And then after ideation, you test out the ideas with a basic wireframe mostly. That is how we do it. Or just bring in the ideas and ask people whether that'll be a good solution or not. You can have test groups like that. And then you prototype it, then you challenge the prototype by putting it out. And it's just like a continuous double diamond is what we call it. So not going to get into it. The design thinking process is literally the process of going from problem to solution to a physical product or a service, and then testing it out. It's generally that. So why do we call it design thinking? Because it's in our thought process. It's like okay, this is how we think about the design. That is why it's called design thinking process. Now, I just want to give you guys an overview before we move on to more technical stuff. I'm just going to put this out of the way. The tools we use. So as a UX designer, there are multiple tools you'll use for different purposes. Now, generally, we use Miro or just normal notebook paper to do UX research. We also use now, of course, FigJam because that's the new thing by Figma. And these are just the tools for research in UX. There are for research and UX, there's Hotjar, which is basically, I'm sure developers know about it. It's heat mapping. And that's also for testing, of course. So there are a bunch of tools we use for UX. These are just some which come in front. Figma, XD, and Sketch are three popular tools we use for UI design. Of course, Figma, arguably you use for everything. I literally used Figma to create the PPT. So everything is good. And then for prototyping, we generally use a third-party application, not Figma and XD. We generally use something like Principle is an old application now, but it's still used by a lot of people. Protopy is newer, but it has a lot of cool features. I have tutorials on that on my channel. And Framer, again, have tutorials on it, but it's a really cool tool, quick prototypes. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, and I'm just going to explain what other tasks UX designers need to do. UX UI is theek. We find problems, we come up with solutions, and we convert those solutions into actual UI designs. But what are the other tasks that UX designers need to do, especially if you're in a job? Coordinate with PMs, of course. PMs are product managers. So a product designer needs to communicate with the product designer. So like product designer, product manager, that's how it comes down to. Now, product designer, don't get confused. A product designer is who designs a product, who often does UX, UI both, along with a little bit of strategy, a little bit of testing, everything he can do, that basically. he should be an expert at all. Coordinate with PMs. So PMs will come to you with the ideas, with the problems, with the say, okay, this is the product we need to create. This is a product that this is our product. This is what it stands for. These are things we are willing to do. These are things we're not willing to do. Okay. Hand off designs to developers. Hey, you developers, I'm talking about you. If you want to become a good designer, you need to know how you can go from acha design to bana liya. Now, how do people develop it? So design you take from okay saying that okay this is the design to okay saying this is how you will convert it from design to code. Now that is simple. Yeah, sounds simple, but it's not as simple as that. So there are a lot of tools. Figma also does it. It allows developers to pick SVGs, all the icons, all the graphical elements that they need to pick. From there, they also see, they're able to see the dimensions of the grid. There are grid dimensions, the component dimensions, everything they're able to see. And such tools are able to hand off designs to developers. So you're saying, hey, this is the design and this is what you need to make. Often for even prototyping, we send the prototypes off with all the animations, interactions, and we say, this is how animation needs to be done. This is how interaction needs to be done. So we generally send either a video, or if we've utilized some cool animations in our designs, we can always send off the Lottie files. I'm sure you guys already know about this. Be a part of business meetings. UX designers, as I said earlier, are a core part of the customer experience, right? So the business wants the UX designers to be a part of the business, because with good UX comes good business. That is generally how it works. Assist the content team in making good content / UX copy. Now, before we move on, what is UX copy? UX copy, everything you see on screen is either content or UX copy. Somebody's calling me. So if I go to a certain application, if I go to Twitter, okay, I have Twitter up here. Thank you for mentioning me in today's post. So in today's post, I want to, let's just say I want to say follow somebody. I'm just going to pick someone. I want to follow Karthike, okay? And there is a follow button. If it didn't say follow, if it said something else, if it said tweet, it would mean something very different. If it said join now, it would be something very different. Follow is a term that came back in the day from saying, okay, we're following this creator. So it's simple. We just say follow. You could say follow Karthike also, or follow him. You know, that would be bad UX copy. But you just say follow and everybody understands, right? So that is UX copy. The content that you're putting inside buttons, around the titles as well. Then content is the actual content, description of something, or a blog article. Anything is content, okay? Come up with new features, tools, and even products. So new features, tools, and even products, what does this mean? If you have an idea, so if you go to say Zomato, if you order something, there is a guy with a cape. It's like a superhero coming to you. So that idea was come up, there's a guy in Zomato. I won't take his name. I'm not sure if he's comfortable with it, but he came up with that idea of saying, hey, during the pandemic, the people who are delivering food are superheroes, right? So that is how you came up with the design, and saying, okay, this is little superhero icon we can put. It makes it interesting, and we can even tell people, hey, support our superheroes. So they put in things like you can donate to these people or give them tips and stuff like that. So that is how he came up with a cool little solution to the whole problem going on. Now, I'm going to move on to the next slide, and we're going to move on to something that we've already looked at. Okay, what is UX? Okay, what is UI? UI is the visual aspect of things. The business of design is the next big thing that you need to understand. Okay, we're going to get into other things, but this is what we need to get across. Now, before we even get into business of design, I know people can get bored by all this theory. What is this, Punit? So I'm going to bring up a little video that I love watching whenever I feel low. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's cool. UX design at Google. So this is how UX designers at a well-known company would function. I just want you guys to see how it is, how does it look like being a UX designer. So I'm just gonna bring on this video. I'm not sure how to, but I'm gonna figure it out. Okay, so I'm going to remove from studio and I'm going to stop my screen. I'm going to quickly bring up that little video file that I have. So this will give you a better idea of what it looks like being a UX designer in the day-to-day life, you know.
I am a design manager within UX.
I'm a design manager on the material design team.
I'm a UX designer here at Google. UX designers on a daily basis design interfaces, navigation models, UX patterns for a lot of different apps and services.
The UX design family at Google is really broad. We have a lot of different specializations that go into what contributes to the user experience.
Google promotes a culture of autonomy and sort of self-direction because that's where a lot of innovation lies.
I think that's a way for each person to grow and help them build their career here.
Google cares deeply about good design. Larry has this design anecdote, the toothbrush test. He wants us to build experiences that users use twice a day, every day, to make some meaningful difference in their lives. We build new ways of doing that, whether it's via video or you can send some new beautiful emoji that our team has worked on.
Designing a product where 4 million people use or billions of people use, that's scary.
It's hard to get out of bed every day and think about a billion users, but it's easy to get out of bed every day and think about making something useful for a billion users and doing your best to create that.
I think that's the best part of it, where I helped change the UI in a way that's more usable and more efficient to users. And that might help each person and individual on a daily basis. It's a very humbling experience.
I can fondly recall moments where I would be sitting on a plane or on the train and see someone pull a device out of their pocket, fire up that thing that I'd worked on, and not make any fuss about it, but just go, use it, do something with it. It's wonderful.
Seems like an ad for Google, but it's not. That was a little overview of what it looks like to be a UX designer. What's the feeling? What's the feeling behind it? And as a developer, you guys already know development is also a lot about problem solving. How do you make the flow more efficient? How do you, speed up a website's loading time? How do you do all that good stuff? That's making things efficient. Even in UI UX, you're making things better and efficient every single day. Okay. And we're going to get back to what we were doing, but I just want you to understand this. Any new field will seem overwhelming when you look at it from the first, for the first time. But even as developers, I'm sure a lot of you guys are developers, you don't know everything from day one, do you? You take small steps to understand different things about, say, a certain programming language or in general, tech in general. And you go from one place to another. So even with UI UX, don't think it's too much, because it's not. Because once you get into it, once you start learning it, dhire dhire, it'll come. So I'm going to go back to the business of design, and now we'll get into the business of design. So I'm sure you guys heard in the Google video how they were talking about, we have to design for 1 million billion people. Yes. So when you're designing for a commercial product, what did I just say? Commercial product, commerce, business. So in commercial products, you need to make sure that the business is being taken care of too. We focus on users, yes, but we focus only on users to validate whether a business can be making money out of it. Not a lot of design decisions need to be taken in the perspective ke business should benefit out of it, or it should be affordable to the business. So let's look at some of these points. How do we upsell? What is upselling, Puneet? So if you open your Zomato app, Swiggy app, whatever you want, okay? I'm just going to open Zomato because it's an app I use, not every day, but like 3-4 times a week at least. And if you can see on the top here, just going to try and put it as efficiently as possible. This top little banner says, great, free delivery plus extra discounts if you buy Pro Plus. Now, when you see something like this, okay, oops, I think you can see my address. What the fuck? So if you see a banner like this, forget it, man. If you come to my house, the security is not going to allow you in. Free delivery plus extra discounts. What does this do? It essentially allows you to see what the business is providing to you as a pro plan, and you can buy their pro plan. In this case, the designer needs to consider this as a business move and not as a design move, right? You're just using design to make it a little more seamless. Here, it's not obstructing the screen. There's no weird pop-ups going on. But this is easily something that you can ignore, and it's also something which is on top. Anything on top, you need to understand. Anything on top will be more, on focus because it's the first thing you see. So he's put it there because now it's important because it's on top. But again, he's considered this as a business plan. So he said, okay, we're going to show what they can get, and by writing it out, and we're going to make it attractive, because if it looks attractive, people will come to it and will view it. Okay. Apart from showing my address on screen to everyone, I think this was a great way to understand how it is helping the business. So that example that I showed you is an upsell. They're selling you something through an already existing product. So on Zomato, if they show you some premium plan or something that you can buy from Zomato directly, they are upselling it. They're saying, hey, if you like this thing, you might like this thing as well. Okay, so if you like Zomato, but if you want like free delivery and stuff like that, they're upselling you their pro plan, right? So a UX designer also needs to understand that, because UX designer is someone who's actually, or UI designer is someone who's actually adding it to the UI, isn't it? Affordability of design. Zomato could put 1 million animations. Why doesn't it do that? Or any other applications could have 1 million animations. Look at, oh, it's so pretty, it's so nice. So why are most popular applications not that pretty looking? Why is it not like a cinematic experience? Whether one can do that, right? But the thing is affordability. And when we come to affordability, there's a lot of different factors to it. Nobody saw anything. Yeah. So there are a lot of different factors to affordability. Okay. One factor that a lot of you guys might be thinking is this design expensive? And when we mean expensive, is this design taking a lot of time to do? So we also have deadlines that we need to conquer. If we miss that deadlines, it's a cost for the business, because it's taking more time to get something out that they need for the business, right? So that's affordability. The second aspect of affordability is, will this app be too heavy if we do this? If you add a certain, say, animation or a video to your application, it will add to the actual APK size or the IPA size for either the iOS application or Android application. And that if an app is heavy, spelling of business, yeah, I think I misspelled that. I missed an S. Cool. Thank you for pointing that out. You're basically, making it expensive for people to download it. Not everyone has a good internet connection. That's another aspect of it, right? So you need to make the app lightweight. It should be smooth to use. Of course, you don't want to put too much, heavy stuff onto it just so that it looks better, but it doesn't work well, right? So there's a lot of different aspects to affordance in design, right? Now, keep stakeholders happy. As designers, we need to make sure, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen those reels on Instagram and stuff like that, videos where they say, hey, I have this client, he's not happy with whatever we're doing, this, that. So in a space where you're a designer. It could be as a freelancer or a full-time job, whatever it might be. You have stakeholders. You have product manager as a stakeholder. There's there are other things which are stakeholders. There's the business owner is a stakeholder. Who else is a stakeholder? Of course, developers in a lot of ways will act as a stakeholder as well, because you're having to hand it off. There's of course a contact team, and all these people, you need to make sure you coordinate well with them and you keep them happy. You make sure that the product managers and the business owners are happy with the product or with the final results. KPIs, key performance indicators. What does that mean? We spoke about UX researching and all that, but how do you find out whether it works for your business or not? So key performance indicator, what does it say? It says, okay, if we add this button, it should bring more sales to the company, right? If you add a button saying buy now on, say, a certain page, and you say, okay, if we add this here, it should bring us more sales through this page. So that is an indicator. More sales will be an indicator of the performance, right? Great. Product design and strategy. Product design and strategy. So in this case, we have product design as a whole. Product design is where you're considering the aspects of business as well as design. So both of those. You're an expert at knowing, okay, this is how you manage a product, this is how you come up with a strategy for the business, and this is how you convert it into UX and UI. Strategy, again, is, you already know about it. How do you strategize? Okay, this is a release, or this is a design we need to do now, or this is something very important, this is what we need to prioritize. All that comes under strategy. Or this is the timeline, that's your strategy. Innovation. Steve Jobs is one of the biggest innovators in the world. He innovated through design, right? So design can be used to innovate. Apart from bad spellings, I am someone who believes in innovation as well. So innovation is a big deal. If you can innovate new solutions, that is innovation, right? So I'm going to move on to the next screen, so that, okay, now let's come up to career options. So we've spoken about things that come under UX, things that come under UI, what all we need to consider, what is the design thinking process, what are the tasks a UX designer needs to take, what are the tools that they use, what is UXD, what does it come under. We know all these things by now. Oops. Career options in design industry is a big deal, because a lot of people are starting to gain interest in UX and UI. But what is the future as a career? Now, there are tons of design. As you can see, I just couldn't even include half of them here because it's such a long list. And just to give you an overview, UI design is one, where you're designing the user interface. If you're just a UI designer for a company, especially for a company which has a different separate team for different things, you will be working on the user interface. You will be given the wireframes, the problems, the solutions, everything. They're going to say, this is how we need it. This is how it needs to be, cut out. And this is what needs to be there. So you, as a UI designer, can make a good, efficient UI. Of course, UI designers will work closely with UX designers to make sure that the product is in line with what the UX designers have done, right? Now, UX design, of course, we've spoken about, nothing to explain there. UX designers who does everything from research to wireframing. That's generally the tasks that you need to cover for like a proper job. A UX strategist, okay? UX strategy is very important. There are different names given to this, but UX strategist is what I'm just giving it here. Is someone who is going to strategize how the product is going to come into play. What is the timelines? How do we move about it? Whether it's a good strategy or not? How do we implement the strategy? All that he comes up with, UX strategist. Interaction designer. Hey, Punit, interaction designer is someone who designs interactions. That's too plain simple. Interaction designer is someone who observes and discovers how users interact with a product. That is unexpected. That definition is so unexpected, but that's true. So interaction designer, is someone who sees how the user interacts with a product, and then he comes up with better solutions so that he can interact more efficiently and better. Interaction designer. Animations and motion is not a part of interaction designer, by the way. It's a small part saying that, okay, interaction designer can design a prototype which helps understand how the user interacts, right? So that is under interaction designer. Product designer, we spoke about it. Consider product designer a jack of all trades. He is doing strategy, he is doing UX, he is doing UI. But does he always do that? Well, oftentimes, if you're a product designer, you can ask the UI designer to design the UI. You can say, hey, I'm giving you this responsibility. So those things exist. Of course, if you're at a senior position, you can definitely do that. Even at a lower position, there are very few people who are junior product designers, because it's such an area where you need to have experience in different things, different parts of design or different aspects of design. Principal UX designer, what is this? So a while back, even I got this as we are this company, won't name the company. We are looking for a principal UX designer. We looked through your profile, and they emailed me. Of course, there's someone from the team who emailed me and said, we're looking for a principal UX designer. I said, okay. And I had to Google it. So this was a while back, of course, when I was somewhat newer to design, not very new. Principal UX designer is someone who is able to, again, kind of similar to a product designer, but principal UX designer is someone who is able to bind developers, PMs, and designers together. There needs to be someone who can sync everything, right? So principal UX designer is someone who syncs everything, So he is syncing, this is how the design can be implemented as code. He should be knowing that, whatever platform it might be. This is how the product strategy is. This is how we need to implement it into design. So he's basically a middleman between all of these people, and he should have an expertise or some experience in all these areas where you have to communicate with. UX writer. UX writer is is someone. Content writer also is someone who often can do UX writing. But UX writer is someone who literally writes the text for buttons and cards and titles and things like that. And we say, hey, UX writer has no job. He's just vela. but UX writer is someone who can make millions of dollars for your business. I'm going to tell you a little story before we move on. Amazon, quite a few years back, was having trouble making money through its, the experience, saying that, if somebody says buy now or whatever it is, not enough sales are happening. So they brought on some senior designers and they said, fix this. And the designers said something very simple. He said, nothing needs to be changed in the design. That is what they said. And they're like, we spent millions of dollars to bring you on board, and this is what you're saying. And they said, well, there's nothing to change in the design, but there's something to change in the copy. Copy meaning the words and the content. And he said, okay, do it. So the change they made was, from a while back on Amazon, there used to be a register button. They got rid of it. They said, we're going to rename the button. We're going to put in a text that is going to change everything. And they said, okay, let's put in continue. Nothing else. They just said continue. That little button from there onwards, in research, turns out, brought $300 million in sales for Amazon. $300 million is not a small amount. And Amazon solved the problem. They said, okay, now we know how to do it well. So that one little text inside that button changed everything. They didn't change too much apart from that, but they changed everything. Why? Because registration is a daunting activity. It's people don't want to go through filling up forms to register. In fact, they just want to continue with their shopping. So continue was the best thing to do. UX writing is a very valuable skill. And often you combine skills like UX writing and UX design to say, I'm an expert at both. Okay. So that's somebody saying Zomato has some good notification. So that is often not coming under content. That is more marketing and content team. But yes, a UX designer, if he is smart enough, he can write the same stuff, you know. So that is all that there is to UX writing. UX engineer, oh, what is UX engineer? Someone who is able to do both, understand UX and then convert it into an actual product through coding or no code, whatever it might be. He's an engineer after all. Now, if we move on, I want to move on to something exciting. So a while back, this will just give you an overview of what is the career path or the career in UX in India. So Ramakrishna is the director of UX design at Zeta Suite. He's as you can see, I don't follow him. He doesn't follow me. It's okay. Designer salaries and incomes. So he took out a research on Twitter. He posted it. He did a research with a bunch of people. He called on hundreds of participants and he said, if you have this much experience, tell me your salaries. And he averaged it out and he put the highest one also. So in this case, there is, for people of 0 to 2 years experience, where there were 200 plus participants, the highest salary was 35 lakhs. I'm going to come to how this happens. And the average salary is 8.25 lakhs. So in India, the average salary is anywhere between 7 to 8 lakh rupees to begin with as a junior designer. Okay. If you move on, he also compiled for 10 to 15 years. I've skipped a couple of years. Yes, I know, but I just wanted to show you an average. So 10 to 15 years experience, people can earn anywhere from 42 lakhs a year to 1 crore a year. And there's 36 participants. And the best part is the person who researched this is a valid guy. He does a lot of this cool stuff and he did a lot of research to come up with this. So this is more or less accurate and people did agree. After this study came out, it went viral and people agreed with this because it does happen. And 15 plus years, he's put this emoji, which is cool, is 3 crores. It goes up to 3 crores and that's just a small part of it. It can go much above that. So this is 3 crores, the highest salary for a person who has 15 plus years of experience in design. Now, before we move on to, you guys can ask me questions about UX and what we're going to do about it. I just want to explain this spectrum. How do you value yourself as a designer? So a designer's value, it comes down to saying, okay, this is what I know, this is my skill set, this is how good I am at it, and this is the kind of lucrative business I've brought in for people. So if you're someone who's starting off, you can expect this much salary, okay, fine. But what if someone has only 1 or 2 years of experience and still earning 35 lakhs? That person must have brought a lot of business for the company. You know? A lot of business for the company. So the company said, hey, you're the kind of guy who's bringing in so much business for us. We're going to jack up your salary to this much. You earn it. So depending on how much business you bring as a designer, you say, okay, this is such a great solution that it's bringing in $300 million in Amazon. Amazon must have given a lot of money to those people for doing that. So money comes down to how much business you're bringing and how much worth you are for the company. And then for people above this, it keeps on going up like that. So 10 to 15 years of experience, people are often either leads or managers. And sometimes if you're moving in a fast-paced company or a fast, quickly growing company, you might even be vice president or director of design. And that time, 1 crore is not that much. 1 crore, if you divide it, is how much? I don't know. My math sucks. But if you divide it, it's like a couple of lakhs rupees a month, which is all right. It seems all right on a monthly basis. You know? So that was, design salaries and how we come up with value. I think I've explained how we come up with value is you have to be good at this. The skill should be great. You should know design, of course, very well. You should blend well with the team, you should work well with the team, as well as you should show the company that your solutions are bringing it so much money. They'll jack up your salary like nothing, promise. So this is an overview of UX. You've gotten to know a couple of jargons. This slide, I think, take a screenshot of this slide, guys. Or whenever this is up again, you can check it out. This slide is the simplest language you can use to define the design process. So this is the overview of UX and UI. I told you what are the parts of it, what's the jargon used around it, and what each one of these means. Of course, you can study each one of these in depth if you like. Some I think I missed. Information architecture, not going to go too deep into it. We'll do that tomorrow. All this we will be doing in tomorrow's session as well. So we'll leave something for tomorrow as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the table up for questions. Hopefully the team is okay with it. I'm going to open up with questions, and you can ask me anything about what I said today. You can ask me things about career. You can ask me things about design, education, things like that. Since I'm in edtech, I own my own edtech startup. You can always ask me about that. And you can always, ask me things about if you have any doubts about the field itself.
Yeah, so I think we can start taking up questions.
Awesome.
So at the beginning of the session, someone asked that you mentioned they asked, what's a wireframe?
Okay. Yeah, GPB asked it. So GPB asked what are wireframes. So I'm sure you guys have heard about the term blueprint. What's a blueprint? It's basically a basic sketch or a draft of what is to come for the final product. It just gives you an overview of how the final product will look. Wireframe is there as a blueprint to show, okay, this is what the product is going to look like, feel like, and this is how we're going to lay things out. This is how we're going to execute our UX research, and this is what we've come up with after doing the research, after doing a little bit of usability testing. This is the final wireframe we have. Wireframe is also called low-fi design or low fidelity design. It doesn't have colors, it doesn't have images, it barely has any text, it doesn't have content, it doesn't have functionality or anything like that. It's just saying this is how it will look, this is how the things will be placed, this is how this is the starting point of the final product that we're going to bring up with. So wireframe is the final process in the UX design process, or the final step in the UX design process. After wireframe, we hand it over to the UI designer, and the UI designer is someone who converts our basic black and white wireframes into, he adds colors, typography, content, he does interactions, he does animations, he does shadows and layouts and grids and stuff like that. He refines everything and brings a final product to you. So that's where wireframe stands.
So it's like the beginning of the process, right?
Yeah, it's like a blueprint. Like you see a blueprint for a building. Okay, this is how the building will look, but you have no idea of the structure or how it'll look in the final product.
So Shubham Chaube asked that how do they build such accessible interfaces? For example, PUBG, everything in a little space. What is the developer's mindset to build such an enormous design?
Okay, so the first thing is that if you think that the developer built the interface, you're a little off, because a developer executes the interface. He says, okay, this is how we can execute it on with code. This is how this function will carry out onto an actual device. But say, for example, let's take PUBG, for example, as he came up with. Now it's whatever, I don't even know what it's called now. So a platform like PUBG is a game. So a game, a lot of people who are game designers also know user experience and user interface. But the thing about UI and UX in games is that it's not always, how this trigger should be placed somewhere. How if you press something, the person will shoot. It's not up to UX/UI designers. So that example, on a game like PUBG, the pop-ups you see, or the home screen where you have, okay, this is the new season, or this is the new items that you can buy, the buy now buttons, all that stuff, all that content is placed in by a UX/UI designer. But a game designer is someone who adds all the motion to it, the triggers to it, the deep add or whatever he wants to add on the screen, and from there he moves on, and the UX designer often validates it. But let's take an information intensive application which is not a game, something like say a hotel application. I'm sure everyone's used Make My Trip or some hotel application once in their lifetime, Oyo, whatever, for whatever reason you used it. But there you might see a lot of information for the hotels. You might see 100 different features of the hotel: AC, generator, free Wi-Fi, this, so much information in small space. That is called an information intensive application. It's intense in information. It's so much information. So a UX designer needs to be an expert at creating something super minimal, like, okay, there's literally 2 buttons on screen, there's nothing else. And he should also be an expert at making sure that the content he's displaying, if there's a lot of content, it should be displayed in such a way that it doesn't seem tedious to read. It doesn't seem, difficult to read or difficult to analyze what it is. So if you go to a hotel application, you'll see icons, and on the side of the icons there's free Wi-Fi. Why do we use icons? Because icons help us to quickly identify the text. If you see a Wi-Fi icon, you'll say, okay, this place has Wi-Fi. So you're basically, a UX designer is someone, or a UI designer in this case could be someone who is an expert at displaying content, more or less. He's bringing up whatever content needs to be displayed. He's using smart techniques to make sure everything can be placed in a small area. And this helps businesses a lot, because user will not all the time scroll to the bottom. He wants to quickly see for a hotel it might be quickly see what are the top 5 features. Acha, iske paas Wi-Fi hai, theek hai, swimming pool hai ki nahi hai, theek hai. So you want to quickly check that out, and to quickly check that out, you need to be a designer needs to make sure that it's quick to read, easy to read, basically.
Yeah. So
Okay, so next question by Shubham Chaubey. Punit sir, what made you think that this is going to be your field of work? I mean, I think you said that you first was a developer and
Yeah, so I think I told you guys. I think people here might not
yeah.
know. Basically, somebody asked me to make a website. I did not know how to code. I only knew how to do HTML and CSS, what they teach in school. That's it. But somebody asked me to do it. I went on to teamtreehouse.com. It's a popular place to learn. And I literally got their 7-day trial, and I learned everything in 7 days. So I was a quick learner. I was very focused on it, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to quickly do it. So I made a website for them. And from there, I realized I'm not that great at math. I'm not that great at coming up with solutions to problems when it comes to code. And I said, okay, maybe coding is not exactly where I want to go in. So I started exploring other areas, and I realized I was good at making user interfaces for the websites I was creating. So I said, okay, now the next step is to understand, is there a career? So I spoke to a friend's father who was into software development, and he said he had his own firm. So he said, UX and UI is the next big thing, buddy. So I was like, okay, if it is the next big thing, that means what I really am passionate about, what I really like doing, has a career to it. So he said, yeah, go check it out. And I went on and started learning here, there, everywhere, whatever I could find. There were not a lot of solutions. Like, this was like 6-7 years ago. Not a lot of solutions for designers in the form of courses and YouTube videos. So I just had to read as many articles, experiment, try out new things as possible. And that is how I realized this is what my passion is, and I can keep on doing this for the rest of my life. Of course, now I'm a design entrepreneur. I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship and business and product. So that is where I'm headed towards. It's
Yeah.
it's like a it's like
Okay.
a slow growing process.
So I had
Nice.
like a follow-up question to this. So
Sure.
what's the scenario of like freelance UI UX designer? Because nobody would come up to you and say like design me a website. They would always come up to you and say make me a website.
Yeah. So the thing is, no code has allowed even designers to explore the space of what you're talking about, making
Yeah.
a website. You can design something in Figma, show it to the client, and if he says it's a good design, you can then finally just produce it onto Webflow or Editor X, or even pick up something like WordPress or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So the thing is now, people who are coming up with, product owners especially, or owners of the business, are coming up to people and saying, we want to first look at the design. Now the space is changing a little bit, where even business owners know the importance of UX and UI. They know that acha, product design and UX design is a thing that could help our product become better. These people can help us understand our users better. So there's a lot of, transparency and a lot of knowledge being spread out, and developers, sorry, not developers, owners, product owners, or business owners, when they discover, okay, this is an app we need to get made, they, I'm sure, are reading up on how, what is the product design, what is the product development life cycle. How does a product go from an idea to a final product? And design is going to come up everywhere. It's going to come up in blogs and videos, wherever you go. If you look at Y Combinator's videos, where they talk about business and how, how to build a product from scratch, they'll talk about design a lot. So it's now being, implanted into business people's minds ke acha design bhi koi cheez hoti hai, so
Yeah.
they're now inquiring a lot about it.
Yeah. Especially the upcoming startups.
Yeah, definitely. For them, UX is the
Everything.
new, way to come up with a good MVP. MVPs are important, most valuable player. So if you are able to, or in this case, it's a minimal viable product. So minimal viable product is something that you can show to your investors and stakeholders and say, this is what the product is going to look like. So there they're saying, okay, we need to focus on the UI. So they're coming to people like us, for sure.
Okay. So how exactly the portfolio must stand out if all people have same concept and unique design? Okay,
So I
sir.
have, yeah, sure,
Before
sure. Yeah.
starting,
Yeah.
actually, I have read all other doubts. It says that we are from engineering background, right?
Yeah.
And whenever we are going to apply in a company, they'll always say, "Ki, you're not a designer. You are from engineering background." So at that moment, we get a kind of rejected, not completely until they interview us, but there is this problem which most of us might face. Definitely.
So I did my bachelor's of science in IT, and so I have a little bit of empathy for that. I'm not a B Tech or anybody, but
Yeah.
definitely my field did not have anything of design as well.
Hmm.
So the thing is, as a UX UI design, if you are getting into the field as an engineer or a developer, you need to see one thing. You need to see, how, are you good at it, first of all, or are you doing it just because it's lucrative? It's a new market. It's okay. There's demand. That's a lot of people come up to me, and a lot of their scenarios are like, okay, this is, somebody told us and we saw this is a lucrative field, so we're like, if you aren't passionate about it, if you haven't built that passion for it or that interest for it, you can't really get into it. So first of all, if you're not passionate about it, if you haven't experimented with it, don't get into it just for the sake of it. Second of all, as a developer, if you're getting into design, you can use your development skills as an MVP, not as an MVP, as a USP. And you can say, hey, I'm the kind of guy, I know code as well. So tomorrow, I'm in design, of course, but tomorrow, if there is a problem or I need to communicate with the developer, I can do that well. Or I have an upper hand because I'm from a development background. I understand whether something is affordable to build for an engineer or for a developer or not. Or I understand the language of the developer and handoff is easy for me. So all these things you can use as USPs. Again, there are some companies who want people from design backgrounds, who want people from who've done their degrees in design from IIT, from NIFT, from Shishti, whatever colleges that there are. You need to differentiate yourself by seeing what your unique selling point is. And in this case, it's since you're a developer, you know how to develop the product, but now you're getting into UX, that's your interest area, so you can do both very well. So you're a jack of both trades and master of both. I would suggest also looking at, as I said, UX engineer, UI developer jobs. So if you want to transition slowly, if you're not too sure whether you want to get too deep into it, you can get into those areas of fields by saying, I'm a UI developer, I do front end. Tomorrow it'll be smoother for you to get into UI. So if you're not too sure, you can always take the slower path, but also a path which will allow you to understand whether UI UX is the thing for you, basically.
Okay, so moving to the next question. UX and CX.
So yeah, CX मैंने आपको जैसे बताया, there's no difference. It's more like CX is the building and UX is your apartment. You know, UX is a part of CX. Customer experience. अब अगर आप उसको छोटे ऐसे abbreviations में use करोगे UX and UI, it'll get complicated. Just use it as full terms. What is the first thing that comes into your mind when you think about customer experience? A lot of people might say, hey, customer service. Customer service is a part of customer experience. Of course, why not? But it's just a part. Just like that, UX is a big part of the customer's experience. What is the customer's experience? The customer's experience can be getting a product delivered and he's delivering it using your application. So that is the customer's experience. UX is a part of the customer's overall experience. So the customer experience is the overall experience you have from the app to the final whatever is happening. You know, it could be delivery, it could be food, it could be watching a video, whatever it might be. In case, say on YouTube, what is your customer experience? Video अच्छे जल्दी load होनी चाहिए. You know, कल को you can commenting. If you aren't allowed to comment, you'll be angry. Why aren't I allowed to comment? If the likes are there's no like button there, then what? It's not a community anymore, right? So you go to YouTube, looking at it from the point of consuming content and becoming a part of a community. If you're a subscriber of a certain YouTuber, you're his fan, you're going to comment on every video. But if he deletes all his comments or removes the comment feature, there's no point of the application, right? You're watching videos, that's user experience, watching video. But customer experience comes with other factors. It comes with building community, it comes with marketing, it comes with customer support. If you're having a problem with the app, having a problem with issue in the app, you can quickly get to someone and they'll solve your problem. So that is also a part of customer experience. Hopefully that defines customer experience. आपको धीरे धीरे समझ आएगा. ऐसा मैं दो चीजें बोल दूंगा उससे नहीं समझ आएगा. It's something that over time, when you work in the industry, you'll get to know, oh, this is what he was talking about, you know.
Okay, so let's have next question.
So Viral asked, if someone has no experience as a professional, how can one apply for an internship?
Okay, so let's talk about design. Design doesn't need experience for you to be good at it. Okay, but you need direction. If you're a beginner, you need direction, and a good internship can help you get that direction. A very good internship that is available right now is Lollipop Design Studios internship where they take you from being someone who doesn't know much about the real world of design to knowing something about design. So a good internship program will allow even beginners to enter, but in design what you need to show stuff. In coding क्या होता है, आपने कॉलेज में कोडिंग की है, ठीक है, आपको कोडिंग आती है. So in in college, if you're doing BTech, your tests will give the score. If there's a one course structure includes Java. If you want to become a Java developer, you can apply for Java developer jobs and you'll get a job, because of course you did college and you know coding, and maybe you have a good GitHub profile too. So what is a good portfolio? It's a good GitHub profile. Literally. Developers click GitHub is important, designers click Behance is important, or LinkedIn is important. So that is, as a beginner, if you want to get into internships and you want to take your career to the next level, make sure you have at least something to show, even if it is basic UI. Even if it is basic UI, at least you are showing to the people that you have the skill to design. You know, if you aren't from a big institute where you've done a course in UX or UI or product design, then you don't have anything to back it up with, right? So for people like who are graduating from Shrishti or NIFT, it's easier because there is some validation to their skill. So through a portfolio or through just one personal or two personal projects, you are saying, I am validating my skill on this platform. So it's important to have a good Behance, basically. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah.
Saurabh.
Yeah, so Saurabh asks, hi, I want to ask that I'm practicing UI designing and UX research since 8 months. How should I find things, internships to work on? Any ideas?
I'm assuming you have displayed everything you worked on your portfolio or Behance or whatever it might be. To find internships, you can always check out, there are platforms who are doing it, like Internshala, you will find multiple internships. LinkedIn, job portal, you'll find internships. But the thing is, you need to make sure that you're committed to it. So to find gigs, you can even find gigs by going to Upwork or Freelance or any one of these platforms. There's Contra now, or even LinkedIn. You can see if somebody's hiring a freelancer. You can do all that cool stuff. But I would suggest asking that question to yourself, whether you want to, first of all, whether do you want to do an internship? If you really want to do an internship, if you want to have some hands-on experience, go for an internship. Internshala is a good platform to get an internship. Otherwise, LinkedIn search people. If I say LinkedIn is one of the best tools, I mean it. LinkedIn search is so simple and easy. You type in UX design internship. You'll get all the professionals who are sending out invites for people to come in and show them their portfolios, and then say, okay, we'll give you an internship. So LinkedIn, go to LinkedIn, search for UX design internship, search for location, remote, whatever. There are filters, you can filter it by. It has a lot of features that you can apply. And make sure it's a paid internship. Paid internship means that these people will get you to do real work. It's not just time pass for them, or acha, you'll do work for free for us. They are a little more serious about you. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. I think you have to ask yourself, do I want to do an internship, or do I want to become a freelancer? So where should I start?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's. I hope this is the last question you're having. And this is also a common question which many of them ask, that should I do masters after to get a job as UX?
So I have nothing to show for myself when it comes to UX design, apart from my experience. So before I had no experience, I was literally working for the smallest startups you could think of. They literally had 3 seats, and they had a little table in a co-working space. It was that small. And I'm sure I'm sure I would have worked for someone who was working out of their house. I would have gone to their house. So I worked for the smallest startups possible because I knew I had no backing in the sense that wasn't doing a course, I wasn't a part of a good college where I was doing design. So if you're a self-taught person, you will have to start from the bottom, like literally the bottom. And if you're someone who is looking for, if you're someone who's going to do a master's anyways, you were going to do MBA or MCA, you know or things like that, MTech, you're going to do all that. But you're really really interested in design and you think that's the field you're passionate about. First of all, don't take the jump and say, okay, I'm passionate about it. Passion ko pehle samjho ke passion hota kya hai. Study about it and then get into it. If you're going to do masters and if you are interested in design, don't make the mistake of, oh, I've done BTech, so now I must do MTech. You can go for masters in design, you can go for masters in human computer interaction. That is also something that's out there, which is basically exists for UX designers. So you can do all that and still have a master's. You have a bachelor's degree to fall back on. So if things don't go well, you can always say, okay, I'll start from the bottom as a developer. And in case of masters, you're starting from the bottom as a designer. So it's the same thing, right?
Yeah. So I guess we can take one last question.
Sure.
So Anushka asked that, are there any qualifications needed to get a job? And if I may add that, are there any certifications that we can get to improve our portfolio, like Google certifications or something in UI UX?
I would suggest people to look at certifications as a learning experience and not as, okay, I'm getting a piece of paper. Google UX certificate will literally get you nowhere. Your thing of, okay, I am good at it is going to get you there. I'm sure a lot of people do the UX course from Google on Udacity. I think it's on Udacity, if I'm not
Coursera.
wrong.
Yeah,
Coursera,
Coursera.
sorry.
It's on Coursera.
Yeah, Coursera. So on Coursera, there's the course. People need to first of all understand it's not a Google UX certificate. It's a Coursera UX certificate
Yeah.
hosted by Google or taught by Google designers. So any certificate, even the cheapest, like you can get a certificate for free. There are platforms which have free courses on UX UI. But certificate will stand for nothing if you aren't good at it. So you'll have to have a portfolio to show for yourself. Your portfolio is more valuable than your certificate or even your degree in a lot of cases. So a lot of employers these days are going to the route of saying, we don't care about your degree. Why are you bringing the degree to us? Where's your work? So if you're getting into a company which appreciates design, they will not really look out for a degree. They'll just ask you, what's your degree? That's it. And then they'll forget about it. So I was working in startups without a degree. I was working in startups since I was in school. So I didn't even have my school diploma yet. So I think your skill should be enough. You should, if you are going onto that path, you should consider your skill as enough. You shouldn't say, I'm identify as a UX designer, graduated from NIFT, Shrishti, whatever. You have to say, I'm a UX designer who worked on such amazing projects and this is my portfolio. That's the mindset you need to go off with. So hopefully that will, kind of get you started. You don't need any certificates. I didn't have any certificates for a long time. I was literally saying, this is what I made, dude. If you like it, I can do something similar for you. Let me know if I can help you out. So that is how you really get ahead in life, really.
Okay, so okay, my
Hey,
last question again.
Okay. This is last.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
How important is font selection in the process of UX?
Okay. Okay. So font selection process. First of all, you'll have to know what's the difference between a font and a typeface or typography. So a typeface is generally Helvetica is a typeface. Correct me if I'm wrong. Helvetica is a typeface. Helvetica Neue is a font. So I'll try to put this into development terms since I've been a developer. Now, a font family is sans serif, but sans serif is just the font family. It's not the font you've picked up. So same with similarly with typography, you have typography is generally the family of fonts. Like you're saying, okay, typeface. This is Helvetica typeface. It's the family of fonts. So you can't say Helvetica Neue is a particular typeface. You can't do that. You can say, okay, this is a font. So a font is you dive deep into it. Font selection process or even a typeface selection process is goes with, first of all, the mood of the application. That's what we define it as. If you're making an app for children, if you're making an app for children, you'll use rounded fonts because it seems playful. You'll use a playful font, right? Or if you're making an app for, say, business people, it's very, very serious, you'll use a serif font. Serif being the font family. You'll use a serif font with it should look classy. Okay, that's the feeling, that's the emotion behind it. If you're making an app which is just a standard product, you're going with sans serif fonts. Under sans serif, there's a lot of different fonts. There's Ninito, there's Mandrope, there's Roboto. So you have all these great things. A font generally supports the feeling of the application or the emotion behind the application. That's where I'm going to end it at, because there's a lot to speak about fonts and typography in general.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So one last question. This might be weird, but is there any sense to mix the design field and management field?
Yeah, as I spoke about, this product management is product managers are people who manage what the product is all about, the idea behind the product, the business behind the product. So you mixing it doesn't make too much sense. But if you're a UX design manager or a UI design manager, then you will need those skills, management skills. But apart from that, manager, like you can say, okay, as a designer, I know about the business well. I know how to conduct the business well. I know कि अच्छा business को ये चाहिए from the
You
designer.
can be a principal UX designer, I guess.
Yeah, you can be a principal. You can be a product designer. Principal तो खैर he should know developers को भी communicate करना आना चाहिए. But product designer is someone who sticks to design, but also gets into the lane of business and talks to the managers a lot and helps come up with a strategy and stuff like that.
So I think that was it.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. And today's session was really, really interesting. Matlab, I was laughing. That's a good sense of humor.
Thank you so much. I like to make it as interesting as possible, so that's the goal.
Yeah. So, do you have any message for the participants?
Message is we'll meet tomorrow, of course. Apart
Yeah,
from that,
for sure.
we don't think too much about it, guys. आप डेवलपर हो, भाड़ में गया सब कुछ, ये कभी ना कभी जरूर काम आ जाएगा. Tomorrow you're a developer, you come up with a solution from the UX point of view, they'll give you a bonus. So just consider it as a nice thing to learn, to add to your already existing portfolio, already existing skill set. It'll give you value in the industry for sure.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming. And hope to see you soon tomorrow again.
Yes, of course.
For the
Not
second
hope,
session.
I will have to come. Ab to
Yeah.
zuban de di.
Yeah, I mean, the time passes soon, so that, because tomorrow we are going to actually start with the UX thing, and they will
Yeah.
be getting the
Yeah, we're
challenges.
doing a little more hands-on
So,
kind of stuff. Yeah.
so today was just an introduction, and tomorrow on they'll start it.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. Hope everyone enjoyed too.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thank